Good morning, everyone. It is so great to welcome you, whether you are in person, offline, or if you are joining us via Zoom. It is great to welcome you to the 6th edition of DataFest Tbilisi. As Alexandra said, it is the 6th time that we are organizing the annual Data Festival. Last night when we were sending you the info packs, and I hope you have received it, we were writing that, oh, this is like such a special edition for our team. But then I realized that we are actually saying and writing this about every single edition of DataFest Tbilisi. And we are actually very honest, we mean it. Every single edition of this festival is very special for us. Sometimes it is the first festival, sometimes it is the biggest one, sometimes it is in the middle of the pandemics, but this one is actually very, very special, and I will tell you why. Last year, when we were opening DataFest Tbilisi in a smaller scale format because of the pandemics, we were talking about the resilience and about how we had to adapt to the pandemics and how hard it has been and so on. Little did we know back then that the following year would be even harder. And we actually got quite challenged, and the entire year has been very challenging with the Russia's invasion into Ukraine. It has become very hard for us to concentrate on this festive mood that we usually have around DataFest Tbilisi. However, the way we responded to this challenge is that we decided to keep doing, not stop, and keep doing what we are best at doing. And this is bringing people together, making connections, help new friendships start, new collaborations, and what is even more important, to make sure that technology is used for social good, and that we enable the change makers, people like you, we enable them with the data, with the effective communication tools, with the technology to make sure that they make the world a better place. So this is exactly what DataFest Tbilisi is about. It's a festival, it's a celebration, it is meeting new people, it's making new friends, and I know that we have very diverse people in the audience. Some of them are maybe for the first time at DataFest Tbilisi. Maybe you are now trying to understand what this is all about, how you can find your place in this field, and how you might connect your future career or like everyday life to data communications or data science, AI, and so on. Some of you, I'm sure, are already a very well advanced professionals in the field, those who have been joining us since 2017, who have actually transferred from just an attendee to speakers, and we will be meeting many of you on the stage and also in the workshop rooms. But what I want to say is that no matter who you are now, in which category you put yourself, I am sure that a person sitting next to you will be a very useful contact, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in a year, in 2 years or 3 years or so on, because this is exactly what has happened to us. Those people who have been part of our community, just coming, attending, maybe even like volunteering at our events, now have become our partners, our colleagues, even our speakers. So we have this saying, once a data fester, always a data fester. So now you are part of our family, big family, international, regional, and these 3 days will be all about figuring out what is exactly your place and how you will keep in touch with us in the following weeks, months, and years. What I want to also underline is that DataFest Tbilisi is not like Forset's event or my event or like our team's event. It's a community event. It's your event, and it is every year organized together with our partners, and we value our partnerships very much. And we also believe that in order to achieve a real impact and a real change, we need to bring people from different sectors and different professional backgrounds together. That's why we are trying to collaborate with different sectors and join efforts to achieve some changes. And that's why you can see in our partners that we have organizations from private sector, for example, Bank of Georgia, which has been our the longest lasting partner and a dear friend, Grant Thornton. We also have partners from the public sector like Tbilisi City Hall or Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency. We are partnering with international development organizations such as Council of Europe and so on. We also have very good supporters and partners, very interesting new ventures, and you will have opportunity to meet all of them during our sessions throughout these 3 days, and also try to find the ways how you can work with them and how you can benefit or or how you can help them achieve their goals. Our partners are Data Art, Impel, Qatari Foundation, European Union in Georgia, and so on. Of course, this would not be possible without the help of our community partners and our media partners, and I want to thank them all. As I mentioned, this year has been very challenging for each of you, and I'm sure for you as well. This happened because the very important achievement of our country, of our region, and the entire world has come under this threat. Democracy is kind of shaking, and we need to make sure that we enable change makers, people like you, to make sure that it stays strong and that technology is used for social good. That's why we decided to schedule for this opening session our very important talks and panel discussions with our dear partner, Alliance of Democracies. And I want to invite Jonas on the stage. He will present his organization and we will have some special welcoming remarks. And I want to urge you to reflect on what will be discussed on the stage in the next 1 hour and a half. And if you think that, and I'm sure you will have the solutions, if you think that you can actually take up the challenge and tackle with these difficulties using technology, we have a very, very interesting hackathon going on as part of DataFest Tbilisi, DemTech Hackathon. And it's not late, you can still join. And what will happen next, Jonas will tell us, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Nino. Good morning, DataFest. Good morning, Tbilisi, and good local time to all that's watching online out there. Thanks to Nino for the kind words of introduction. I would say I got to know Nino, so she does a lot. She does this DataFest with toolset, many other activities. I know her because she was in Copenhagen 2 years ago and did this one here, Quack Hunter, a small program or game that was supposed to, where you could fight disinformation and sort of hunt ducks, but also fake news at the same time. So we had Nino in Copenhagen 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, as one of our democracy and tech fellows working, as she was mentioning, for making technology, advancing freedom and democracy, doing that. Our founder is of the Alliance of Democracies Foundation. It's a non-profit out of Copenhagen. So I want actually first of all to, our founder is the former NATO Secretary General, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, who has a fond heart for Georgia and would have liked to have been here, but couldn't make it. But he gave some sort of short remarks on video that I would like to introduce now. So, and then I'll after that, explain you more about our organization and what we do for technology and freedom. Yeah, video, please.
Greetings to everybody. I'm delighted that the Alliance of Democracies Foundation is joining DataFest Tbilisi. As NATO Secretary General, I worked for stronger ties with Georgia.
You are inviting Keti.
Democracy is under increasing threat globally. With Putin's war in Ukraine, the battle between democracies and autocracies is heightened. Technology is at the forefront of this competition, and Georgia is a victim of this hybrid aggression as well. Election interference, deep fakes, and illicit surveillance. These are all dangers to democracy from the wrong uses of technology. Authoritarian countries use technology for their control and suppression at home and abroad. That's also why I advocate for a technological alliance of democracies to set the standards for the free world. It is for governments to coalesce and establish that. But we also need to build from the bottom up and bring out what the free world does best: innovation, entrepreneurship, and new ideas. To foster that, I initiated the Democracy Tech Entrepreneur Fellowship. The ambition is to foster technological innovations, embracing democratic principles. Since its inception, we have welcomed 5 Democracy Tech Fellows from Georgia to the Copenhagen Democracy Summit. Temur, Georgi, Keti, Irakli, and Nino, who is also our host here at DataFest Tbilisi. All have continued to scale their innovations, work on initiatives that uphold democratic values, and nurture a flourishing culture of democracy and technology entrepreneurship. It is innovation and new ideas that bring my team to Georgia today. I trust you to bring forward new ideas that can help secure the free world and your own societies. I will look forward to hearing from the best and most innovative of you at the next Copenhagen Democracy Summit in May in Copenhagen. I wish you an exciting conference, and in particular, a successful hackathon. And with that, let the show begin. I look forward to hearing about the innovations that will come out of this year's DataFest Tbilisi, and evolution in the projects from all the participants in the hackathon. I hope to meet those that will proceed to be accepted into the fellowship program and eventually meet you physically in Copenhagen. Welcome. The stage is yours.
Thank you. So yeah, those were words from Anders Fogh Rasmussen. And as he said, so the foundation that is a non-profit. We work to foster cooperation among democracies, and in particular, we also work to advance freedom and democracy in technology. And that's why we started out, I would say, with that when we saw the US presidential election in 2016, the social media interference that was done at that time by Russia. Tried different ways to work together with companies to curb that. Also made an election pledge where we had politicians in election campaigns signing up to sort of hold safe and behave properly in digital space, not do deep fakes and bots and so on. We actually did that for the Georgian elections in 2020. Also have done different types of media literacy with games such as the Disinformation Diary game, which we actually also did for the Georgian elections in Georgian language in 2020. Our last upshot and the most important that we are here with today is our Democracy and Tech Entrepreneur Fellowship, whereas for Rasmussen highlighted, we've had 5 in the last 2 years that we've run it from participating from Georgia. We accept primarily from Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. So it's all countries that are lying, of course, in the menacing shadow of Russia, which in Ukraine's case has been even more brutal this year with the war invasion from Russia. But all sort of bringing out ideas from entrepreneurs, because our idea was that if there's a global battle of values going on, what we need is, of course, people, and particularly people in tech, to sort of work for ideas that foster freedom and democracy. So that's been the point of the entrepreneurship. And we've had, as I mentioned, some really great, which you'll hear from shortly, Georgian joining that program. And we encourage people to apply. Actually, the application is until this Sunday, so I hope you will look into that and apply. And secondly, we're which is the first time we do that for us. So being a democracy organization, this is new to us. This is probably, for most of you in tech, something that you're used to, but we do a hackathon, as Nino mentioned earlier. And it's not, as she also mentioned, too late to sign up. It starts after lunch, but if you have a good idea for how to, a technological innovation that could help advance freedom and democracy, then do join the hackathon and try that out. And that also gives an opportunity to sort of present an idea that can be come to Copenhagen, where we do the yearly Copenhagen Democracy Summit. And so as part of the process with the democracy and tech entrepreneurs, we've had them come as each year, first do a round of master classes and with tech, Danish tech entrepreneurs, and help them sort of refine their pitch and their product, and then finally come to the Copenhagen Democracy Summit, present what they've been doing to a much bigger audience, and sort of in conjunction with gathering of global forces for democracy. So that's what's that all about. So come up to us if you have want to hear more about it. We're here during these days. Me, of course, Jonas. Also have my colleague Richard Valakira, who will run the hackathon together with the great staff here at Toolset. So he's here also somewhere that you can hook up with and connect during the conference. So now it's my pleasure to introduce presentations from some of the Georgian fellows in our Democracy and Tech Entrepreneur Program. They've been to Copenhagen presenting, so I've seen them on stage, so I know they're really good. But this is going to be, of course, for you here at DataFest, the opportunity to hear from them. And so I first have Keti Bosikashvili, who from Supernova, and Pulsar, who was with us this year in Copenhagen, and who I look forward to hearing from again with how your technological innovation is going on. Thanks, Keti.
Hello. Thank you, Jonas.
Good, you'll take over.
Thank you. So, good morning. I am Keti, CEO at Supernova. So, Supernova is founded by co-founders of Pulsar AI. And I'll tell you a short story about ourselves. Pulsar AI was established in 2016 and started working on natural language processing very hard with a lot of linguists, and as a result created state-of-the-art products based on AI. Live chat assistants, speech-to-text assistants, so on, and very famous chatbots, which was for financial institutions, insurance companies, with 90% of retention rate. So multilingual bots for telecommunication companies, city halls, etc., etc. A lot of interesting projects. So then was remote identification system with liveness detections and also with 70% of success rate. OCR tools as well, big real-time analysis, big data analysis, and small and different projects. And in 2021, Pulsar AI created conversational AI, which automated the whole process of customer care services in the USA market. And very soon, Pulsar AI Georgia was acquired by the biggest merchandising company, Impel, in USA. So this was the first successful exit in Georgia. After that, Pulsar AI divided into two parts, Georgian parts named Supernova and American parts. Right now, I represent Supernova, and we still continue surprising our customers. So this year was quite challenging for us. And everything started from the hackathon, which was announced by Zinc Network and USAID, and we won. It was about revealing fake news and finding out disinformation and misinformation, and we thought, why do not put our forces in this field and highlight our role in democracy? You all know that fake news is one of the biggest risks of democracy, and exactly behind the fake news always stands some group of people or political parties or companies with a huge financial support. And our goal was to identify hidden and suspicious relations between those people or companies or political parties. And at the same time, we were selected for the Democracy Alliance Fellowship Program. And after 6 months, we showed our product to the world in Copenhagen this year. And what was this product about, you may ask, right? So, and what was the problem? And what kind of problem have we solved? You know that public information is widespread across different web pages, and it's too hard to collect all this information and conduct information research timely, especially when there is no real-time updated, and it's very time-consuming job. Sometimes it needs days and weeks. And and we aggregated all this data and created the biggest database hub from trusted and primary sources, such as revenue services, state audit office. So we got any kind of public financial information. So analyzed it and tried to find suspicious part. So now what is the suspicious part? Imagine there are two companies. And it seems that they have nothing in common, but if you dig deeper and analyze, you can see that those two companies have the same email address, for example, or are registered at the same location, or some specific people stands behind them or so between them. We did it. We collected all this information, analyzed it. Plus, we analyzed 40 different media pages and get real-time updates and analyze what people thought about it, what people needed from it. And based on this investigation and based on our product, our clients' investigation time decreased by 80%. Who are our customers? They are NGOs, investigative groups, they are analysts, journalists. Right now, our customers are IDFI, IFAC, Zinc Network, Grass Network. So we are working with the UK office of Zinc Network, and we try, and our goal is to launch our product in the 26 European countries this year. So, and at the end, very good news. With a collaboration with GRASS, so this is independent Georgian investigative group of journalists, we're going to publish the biggest data sets on our Kaggle account. It's about 500,000 rows, labeled rows, and you can analyze it, use it, and also we created a GitHub repository, so it's public. There you can find AI solutions like sentiment analysis, semantic search, etc., etc. So you can use, fork it, collaborate, so do whatever you want, maybe suggest us your versions, your better versions. So we are open. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Keti. Thanks for this was great. I have, of course, seen some of it in Copenhagen, but seeing continued what you do in this field. So next up is another of our democracy and tech entrepreneurs, Temur, Chichua from Quart NLP. He was not in Copenhagen this year, but the year before, actually our first cohort were, as it's been for you a lot, was sort of shut down, but we managed to bring all our democracy tech fellows to Copenhagen, even though it was still at that time things quite shut down with COVID. But we did have them come and present on stage to a very limited audience in Copenhagen. Now you have an even bigger live audience, Temur, and I look forward to hearing from you. Also because it's been over a year since I had last heard about your results, but exciting. Good to see you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, great. So, hello, I'm Temur, and I'll be talking about CART NLP today. CART NLP is an NLP toolset optimized for Georgian language. Today, I will be very brief. I will shortly introduce myself, I will give you a story of CartNLP, what it is, how it got born, then our journey together with Copenhagen Democracy Summit, and I'll share some of the current challenges which we have right now. So as I mentioned, I'm Temur. I'm a software engineer with passion in data science and machine learning. I work in multiple places. I'm a software engineer in Certisprout. I do my research and lecturing work in Unilab. And Unilab is cyber laboratory of Ilia State University, which is a place where generations work together, collaborate together to research, develop modern solutions. Ilia State University has a brilliant group, a brilliant team of professors who've been working for years on language processing problems. And unfortunately, by the time we started working in Unilab, their years of work was not accessible for outside parties. And neither is easily accessible for inside parties also, to be honest. So that's how the idea of open source NLP toolset got planted. And despite being the university project, we collaborated with local and outside researchers to create a platform which would give you ability to access all those remarkable products like lemmatizators, for example. If you are into data science, you know all these terms I'm talking about, like how to analyze text, how to get keywords, how to get intents out of that. And as I mentioned, despite being university project with almost no funding, we were able to publish our beta version in 2021. And we started to test our solutions on real-world problems. University students and researchers started to use them in their own work. And one of the first problems that we have tackled was spread of misinformation. So this information was as big of an issue back then as it is now. Maybe now it's even bigger issue. And the main thing here was that it's easy to manipulate someone like a general citizen who is unaware or is not skillful enough to analyze and process the consumed data. And unfortunately, it makes most of us. And just like there was no accessible tool set for natural language processing, there was also no tool set for media data analysis. So we decided to take all our experience, which we gained from developing the NLP toolset, and create this kind of tool. And actually, that's where we got into the Copenhagen Democracy Summit. It seemed like our ideas of democratizing technology has matched, and actually preparing for CDS was unique experience, because we got ability to share our ideas, pitch and reshape our ideas with professionals who are leaders in their field. And actually, you can find the result of our months of work as a pitch on YouTube of CartNLP, which happened at CDS 2021. So CDS showed me that I was standing at the bottom of the huge mountain, which was full of more problems than solutions. And it meant only one thing, that there is way, way, way more to be done. So our product was NLP toolset, but to actually analyze data, you need huge force of natural intelligence and extra toolset oriented to the media. So we decided to implement next 3 tools to our tool chain. Reputation score system based on computational ranking of online news sources, which is crucial part, because you can see that there are some patterns of disinformation spread. It's not so hard, but it's still not comfortable for our enemies to create new sources every time they want to spread disinformation. So it's easy to find the main source of disinformation and mark them or label them and give them low scores. And also, this tool set needed to have ability to search through media articles easily for researchers, and also ability to build information source dependency system so that you know which media outlets are depending on reputable sources and which media outlets are more mediators for less reputable sources. So, sorry for messed up outline because I outputted it from a different application, but the idea is we are open source. As I mentioned, we operate with no funding. We're just a team of enthusiasts, and we are very, very open to collaboration. So if you find our ideas or our directions interesting and wish to collaborate, we more than encourage you to reach out, and maybe we can come up with the ways how to solve this problem together. So thank you so much, and actually it's not written there, but thank you. If you want to test our product, you can go to cartnlp.iliauni.edu.g. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks to these two great presentations. We'll now have a panel session where we can sort of discuss with the fellows. I'll invite actually a third of our fellows, Irakli up here to stage, Kavtaradze, who was also joining us in Copenhagen this year with the Z-axis, which looked at data visualization and for good. So if you come up here and join me, then we can have, while we have the rest of the team, you can, I'll start by shaking your hand, or that's actually hard now that we have.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. As Jonas mentioned, I was lucky enough to go to Copenhagen Summit this summer in June, and I represent data analysis, data visualization organization. It's called Z-axis. We're just three friends from academia. Actually, I have a background in social psychology and psychology. My friends have a background in human geography, and we try to, when we get together, we want to analyze and visualize data that is socially important, socially relevant, and we're trying to find that kind of open source big data and try to pick and choose the topics that is relevant in current Georgian society, whatever it might be. And we're trying to visualize the data and try to communicate the data via the visualizations. And we're trying to tell data stories. We're trying to also cooperate with and team up with media organizations. Also, we're trying to create resources for people to learn data analysis and visualization. And we also offer services to different organizations, but mostly related to social issues. Thank you.
So for me personally, a big pleasure to have you to be together here again in Tbilisi. We've been together in Copenhagen, as you all highlighted in your presentations, and we'd be interested really, I think, as a first question for me and for the audience to hear about the fact of coming from the field of technology and now also trying to apply it much more to what kind of works, advancing it for democracy and freedom. Some of your reflections on that, and we can maybe start with Keti in the middle, and then, or actually, yeah, and then you could pass the mic along then to Temur and then to Irakli.
Okay. So first of all, I'd love to say that it was very exciting to show our product to the world in Copenhagen and remind people that there is a small country like Georgia with so big opportunities and possibilities in tech. So this 6 months of fellowship period was quite interesting because we met a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of leaders. We changed our opinions, our experiences. They gave us advices, and after that, I really changed my mind. So right now, I start thinking about things in a different way. So all this period was very valuable for us. Yeah.
To Temur.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned in my presentation, it was pretty unique experience. Okay. Yeah, is it okay? It was pretty unique experience. Most important takeaway from there was for me like when you're doing something at local scale. When we first started out, we didn't expect it to reach, for example, Copenhagen's Democracies Summit or so on. And getting there showed us that whenever you start working at something little, it can affect it can have a big impact. So meeting with mentors and meeting with different experts show us the potential, what potential can our work have, and it was important takeaway for me.
Thank you, Temur. And over now to Irakli.
Okay. Democracy Summit was really, really an opportunity for many reasons. Actually, aside that it was a huge event and it's a really important event. What was really helpful for us was that we had an idea. You have an idea that you want to develop, but you mightn't have a well-structured strategy, a well-structured idea how you should implement that project. What is your overall aim of the project? So this 6 months actually helped us to develop that idea very clearly, so that we had a tangible, realistic project in the end that we were supposed to present to the world, so to speak. So because when you're a startup or when you just start your whatever it is, organization, company, you need visibility, you need to reach the audiences, and it's really difficult, even though Georgia is a small country and we are not too many. You need to reach your audience, and this really helped us to deliver the message to the relevant people, especially in Georgia, because that's the end target audience for us. So that's why it was really, really good. We delivered that message to not only Georgians, but also to many people outside Georgia as well. Yes, I think that was really, it gives you credibility. When you present yourself and present your idea to such audience, it gives you credibility, and that is something that you need when you just start in.
Thank you, Irakli. I wanted then to both, or at least two of you, worked really hard also on disinformation solutions, and I think what we've seen in this year, of course, with Russia's illegal war of invasion in Ukraine, that it's not just, of course, a war on the battlefield, but it's also a war in the digital with disinformation. It's a war with cyber, and so both of you have worked on that, particularly Keti and Temur. So I wanted your reflections on, of course, in the situation we're in right now, how tech can also contribute on that front. And let me mention that actually at this year's Copenhagen Democracies Summit, we decided to give the prize money that we had this year to Ukrainian tech, so the Ukrainian participants that were also part of the group that presented all sort of got the prizes to continue working on their tech solutions, of course, to defend also their country. But I wanted to have your reflection on that, since I would say it's only become more acute, the question of how we combat disinformation and also defend ourselves digitally and concretely help Ukraine win the war.
I'd love to say that identifying misinformation and disinformation, revealing coordinated, inauthentic behavior, so all this stuff is quite important. I don't know, maybe you know, but not, but according to the survey, 26% of Americans say that they change their mind when they see something on their walls, on Facebook pages. So that's how propaganda works, right? So, and I think the main problem is to tell people and help them identify which information is right and which not, and help them somehow find out the truth. I think so, based on our solutions, it's possible. So without tech, I think nothing is possible. Technology itself improves democracy. So, but the important thing is who stands behind it. Because it might be used in a good way and in a false way, right? So, we have to show people, and especially governmental politicians, what value they can see from it and how can they react in a good way. So this is my opinion.
Well, thank you, Keti. Maybe a follow-up question before we pass on to Temur would be, since your tool can actually help journalists find these, as you call them, suspicious connections, I don't know if there's been and whether you can kind of reveal them, but whether there's been any specific connections they've made now during the war. Now, of course, also, at least in whole of Europe, with sanctions, that we sort of try to track Russian oligarchs and their yachts and so on. And I think maybe your tool could be kind of helpful in that regard as well.
It's very helpful and useful, and I mentioned in my presentations that our investigators' time decreased, investigation time decreased by 90%. It means that they revealed a lot of suspicious connections. So they identified some people. I cannot say the names right now, but they work very hard with this tool, and so it's one of the opportunity to find out very quickly such kind of things. Especially they get all kind of notifications about news and about updates, and it's very important.
Thank you, Keti. Temur, do you want to add your reflections on the disinformation piece? And
thank you. It's really important and sensitive topic in case, in a way that we actually have second, not less important battlefield happening, and the main weapon is information. And as technology improves, the power of that weapon gets, and destruction by that weapons gets bigger and bigger. And for example, our main aim in this project was to analyze media and textual data, but now we can see that disinformation agent is not only like a media outlet. It can be influencer from TikTok, for example. So you don't only need to monitor the data media outlets, which are a few, but actually individual like individuals. So you need extra new toolset which can go through social media and analyze individuals and not media outlets. And with the way I look at it, we need all the help we can get in that side, because this is really another battlefield. And at some point it feels like fighting against tanks with arrows, because if you don't improve the technology on that side, then you might end up losing that battlefield. So I think it's really crucial and
more political.
important part of the processes that are happening.
thanks, Temur. I know Irakli also wanted to jump in on this, so I'll turn the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's when we talk about misinformation and manipulation of information to get somewhere. I think it's important to understand the broad political context here. I think when we talk about oligarchs and some people who are our enemies, we also have a huge problem in our society of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. We have the journalists have gathered the information that Ministry of Internal Affairs, they're gathering information about people, and they are themselves, the government itself is trying to manipulate society, especially in critical moments, when they are, for example, protesting rallies that support Western values, for example. We had some cases where Facebook events were created specifically to confuse people. And we have good suspicion that that came from the government and the ruling party. So it's good that we have tools that we can identify people and organizations who are dangerous for our society. But at the same time, we have to keep in our minds that we live in that kind of society where the government itself is someone who is your enemy at the same time, in that sense.
No, right. I think that's a really important point to bring in, of course, and great you did that from a Georgian perspective. And that maybe leads me to another question back, would be what would then be some of the answers in the Georgian situation? How can you then use tech to sort of advance democracy when you have a difficult situation with, as you say, a government where you also, in some cases, are suspecting them of actively doing disinformation? So I think that of course add another layer to it than from what I just asked about how we sort of jointly defend Ukraine, but also how can it actually in your own societies. So actually, how do you see that? What, for example, in your what you do with data visualization, how could that help in a sense also sort of cut through some of the smoke and disinformation created in your own society?
Okay, I'll try to give some context to make the answer more clear for people. the problem in Georgia is that the narratives that people, the domineering narratives that we have in society, especially in the political classes, leaves lots of, I would say the majority of the society away on the side of, we do not know, actually, the narratives do not represent the problems and actual people that live in Georgia. If you take the surveys, the surveys show that almost like 70% of the voters do not have the favorite political party. It's like a huge distrust towards political parties and political class in general. So what journalists and people, the politicians talk about all the time, does not represent the problems of the people, and which is that they don't have jobs, they don't have many services that the government should provide to the people. They have completely different problems. So I think if you want to really help people, if you take visualizations, for example, if you really want to understand how technology might help to solve that problem, I think the first thing that we have to do is to use technology to represent those people. For example, if you use big data, the big upside of big data is that with big data, you can actually put those people on the map. It forces you to talk about those people. For example, when we analyzed conflict data, it was a big data. It recorded every conflicting events that happened in Georgia every day in different locations in Georgia. We understood that most of the time, these protesting rallies are about workforce and work, like manual workers. But media do not represent those problems enough. And if you are a political party, you need voters. You need to represent the problems. So I think we need technology to represent the actual problems of the people. And then we have to use technology as well to connect political parties and people and the problems together.
Thanks, those are really good reflections. Let me maybe mention that one of our Democracy Tech Fellows, actually from Moldova, moved from being a tech entrepreneur into joining a political party. And when we were last in Moldova recently, 2 weeks ago, we met him now as a member of parliament. So it's of course also possible to make that jump from tech and entrepreneurship into political parties and bring some of those insights, as you say, into the political scene. I don't know, Keti and Timur, whether you want to sort of have a comment on that, on how you, in your own society, see the best way that sort of tech in the current situation could contribute.
Being a leader, being in a damn tech landscape, it's not so easy. Because you have to be a bridge, right, between people and the government or people or politicians. And also you have to gain the trust from the perspective of people and from government, because you work with their data, this is quite important. But anyway, I think we can do a lot to make our world better, because I think automatization of these processes is mandatory. So, for example, if we had automated election processes or procurement processes, so everything would be more transparent, right? So there won't be any questions. And we have to work together, so with politicians and show people the outcome of our work and gain the trust again. Yeah.
I think that the first step that we need to take is raise the awareness in people that technology can help us to get what we already actually deserve or have rights to. Democracy is governance by people, and we need to give people as much voice as we can. And there are, as Keti mentioned, a lot of information that is, for example, about government that is publicly available, but with tools that make it impossible to access. Like, we need more people interested in DAM tech, who would actually create solutions that we need. For example, my main idea was not to be the part of the DemTech, but actually create solutions that ended up working for my interests in DemTech. So I think we need more people like that to create more solutions that would be openly and highly and easily accessible by everyone.
Yeah, more communities, more people, more activists, I guess, involved in tech. Yeah.
Well, all three of you are also tech entrepreneurs, so since this is DataFest, I maybe also wanted to sort of touch on where you are with your innovations and what's really the big issue for you at the moment, be it on funding or on a technical solution. So I think that's also interesting for the audience just to hear kind of your reflections on that, sort of where you stand with where your product is going. I mean, all three of you have talked about it up here on stage, but sort of what's the next level for all three of you?
So our basic direction in our work is to create public goods, so to speak. So we create visualizations that is useful for the society in general. But we have many directions. We want to develop projects. We want to give people means to actually do the analysis themselves, to put those technology into their hands. But we also want to develop our entrepreneur side of our organization. So we want to offer better services that might be useful for the market and other organizations, NGO or the governmental organizations. And we want to collaborate with the media. We have already teamed up with Indigo magazine, and we are working on data stories already. So we have those three directions. That is, and we want to just push forward what we're already doing.
Thanks. Keti?
We're gonna work very hard with government and with politicians again. We're gonna launch, as I mentioned before, we're gonna launch our solution in different countries. And also, we want somehow to collaborate with the politicians, and create something valuable with them. So our goal is to make them interest and somehow increase awareness from their side. Yes. This is our goal right now.
And Temur, I remember you also with Elias State University, that you got after Copenhagen a lot of attention to your project, and I think additional funding, and so it'd be interesting also to hear how that has sort of gone on.
So the nice thing is that.
No.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Okay, no problem.
Go ahead, if there was something you hadn't said.
So that's thanks for marking that out. That's really important note. So once we got back from Copenhagen Democracy Summit, actually university got more interested in our project, and it helped us with little funding to support the students who are working on this project to finish the beta version and get it pushed out. But that's not enough. Well, for my point of view, the next step would be to create more collaborative environment. And what I mean by that, together on the stage, three of us are doing more or less we are aiming the same target. We are doing different things, but we try to coexist in the same environment. And I'm pretty sure there are a bunch of different people in this room who also have the same aim. So I think we need to find the sort of like way or tactic to work together, because I believe that people together can create bigger and greater things than individuals. So I hope today will be the maybe not starting point, but breaking point in that direction. And I'm also hoping for new generations, or maybe people who are going to participate in hackathon, and I'll have pleasure to work with them and mentor them during this time, to be passionate about it, also be passionate about it. And I think that should be the next step. How can we actually do more together with resources we have? Because resources are limited, and we can't just cry about it. We need to, something needs to be done with what we have, and I think that should be next important step.
Yes, and I like so we need somehow to send messages to our politicians. So what the people need and what are their opinion, what they want. So because it's quite important. This, we live in a country with them as they live here. So this is ours, and we all need freedom, democracy. So without it, I don't see any way. Yeah.
No, thank you, both of you. I think you underlined a really important point that Nino also underlined as a sort of whole aspect of this DataFest conference is about building community, of course, among tech people. But what we also want to foster and what you hear up here on stage is, of course, also a community of tech entrepreneurs that want to do something good for their societies, good for sort of freedom and democracy, and make sort of technological solutions advance that. Again, because technology is neutral. You can do a lot of things with it. You can do like the Republic of China, People's Republic of China does. You can do surveillance, or you can do technologies that enhance freedom. And of course, what we are here to advocate is, of course, trying to find those technologies that help in our individual societies advance freedom, advance transparency, make our sort of politics more accessible, and that's what sort of we've been all about. So I wanted to ask all three of you, and maybe put you a little bit on the spot, would be on, we have the hackathon just going on shortly now. I know you're all busy with your own innovations that we've seen up here and you've told us about on stage, but it would be great to hear from you if there's something you see as sort of the uncovered area. Where would you, if you were to join the hackathon and join a group, what kind of innovation for democracy that could help advance would you think would be important to bring out? So this would be just your kind of initial thoughts on that if you're about to join the hackathon here in after lunch. Irakli?
Do you mean what kind of projects I would like to see from on a hackathon?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's more. I would like to see more methodologically innovative projects. We ourselves, we like big data, we like open data, and we think open data is really next step and huge step forwards for a better future. So I think if at least 3 of them would be oriented towards how to gather, how to analyze and visualize and communicate open source data. That would be really helpful. Because that's a mindset. It's not just that you have skills how to do stuff, but it's also a mindset how we should approach the topics, how we should approach the problems, and open data and using open data in many ways, in many directions is very useful for society. So I hope I'll see some of those there.
Thanks, Irakli. So that recommendation goes out to all of you and of course to the participant in the hackathon that will start shortly. Keti, what's your thoughts?
I think data, analyze data, so big data would be great. But anyway, any kind of solutions which can be useful or so would be great. Because generally, hackathon is a place where any new ideas can be born, right? That's why I like it. And there we see another thought. There might be different people, different thoughts, and different ideas or mindsets. And it's quite interesting what kind of solutions they can give us, or what kind of projects they can create. But anyway, I think analyzing data and working with it is quite important. And yeah. Because without data, we cannot do anything. So we need to understand problem. We need to understand what do we need, really what do we need, and what kind of messages to send to the government. So this is my idea.
Well, thank you, Keti. That recommendation also goes out to all the participants that will be joining the hackathon. Temur, your thoughts on what sort of, if you were to join, what innovative ideas would you like to sort of see be explored?
Sure, thanks. I'm all for the ideas that would empower individual, ideas that would embrace equality and raise the awareness of individual. Well, my main aim was also to give people power to be more aware and informated like with unpolluted information. And well, that was my work. If you find some new method that could help people to raise awareness and be part of the ongoing processes and know about it with uncontaminated information, then I'm your guy.
Timur, maybe a follow-up question to you. You come really from the sort of the tech programming side, and so what do you think also in your own kind of career, what would make more real programmers want to sort of do code for freedom and democracy? What would you think would be the sort of the motivation that we could come up with at universities and so on for bringing more data programmers aware of the power they have with what you can do with technology, but of course also the responsibility that flows from that?
Beautiful question. I think first of all we need to understand that before we have a profession, we're programmers or whatever, we're citizens, and we have some power, responsibilities, and actually we have a really huge power. So it doesn't matter if you are an artist, you are a software engineer, you are a doctor, you can change something. So once we understand like how much we can change, I think that could be really motivated to you, because for example, if you work for another fintech company, you can make your financial situation better. But if you work in Demtech company or like in Demtech field, then you can make your everyday, and not your, but people around you can live in better world. So I think that could be a great motivation for you.
Thank you, Timur. I think that's really beautifully put. First of all, we are citizens. I think that's an important reminder to all of us, whatever we come from the sort of democracy promotion, or you come from, like most of you, from the tech sphere, that's of course a sort of responsibility. We are about to come to our close. I don't know if there's any questions out there in the field. I've seen you with a hand a couple of times. I don't know if we can get a mic out there, then we can of course also take a question.
Hello everyone. First of all, thanks for this great event, and dear speakers as well. I would go with two questions, as you mentioned, this propaganda and misinformation. So the first question is regarding both of them, with the best and biggest media platform, social media, I mean Facebook. We know that there's a problem, huge problem of bubbles, that information goes directly to one bubble, and when we want to spread our message, it's really hard sometimes to get to the one specific groups, and its American case showed that some people just don't get other side of the information. So how do you see the solution when we are talking about fighting against propaganda and misinformation? How are we able to get through these groups? And second is this, you mentioned some couple of times, this awareness raising. That's also great stuff, but who we are aiming to raise awareness? People for whom it's default, not natural, to use gadgets. And how do you think, what's more effective, fighting propaganda with awareness raising, or maybe start doing some counter-propaganda? What I mean, when Russia says is that not they are best, but others are worse, but no one speaks of the best side of Russia, of this propaganda, how they produce it. So those two will be my questions. Thanks again for this great opportunity.
Thanks. Well, thanks. A really good question. I think the first one on of course, not just what we do with disinformation, but also with echo chambers, the fact that people get fed, also in particular through social media, a lot of the same information over and over again, and that kind of keeps sort of reinforcing instead of getting varied. So I don't know, Keti, Timur, whether one of you would want to join in on that.
So I'll answer the first and second question as well. So regarding first question, I think so involvement of different groups of people, so activists would be great. If we create some communities who will analyze this data time by time and who track these changes, and then somehow tell the people that this is false or this is truth, would be great. But it's in real time, not after day or after 2 days. So Or maybe technically we can create some add-ons for example, for browsers, and if you identify that something false, it's so just tell and tell people and remind it about it or some other, so alert. This is the first question. So I can see that it can be solved by technology. And regarding the second question, so it was, sorry, I forgot. What was it about? Can you
maybe
repeat?
Irakli, you want to jump in on that?
Yes, actually, about social media and Facebook, if that was the second question. Actually, Georgi Kachiani, who isn't present here, he will be here in few hours. You can talk to him personally. He heads that project on Democracy Summits this summer. So he actually, as you mentioned, he created this technology to counteract Russian propaganda. So he was saying that if you want to, and I think I would agree with him, if you want to have a good countermeasure for propaganda, you have to have this kind of counter-propaganda on that kind of level. And his idea is that since the Russian strategy is that you have a single message and then you use a lot of different channels to spread that message as quickly and as far as you can. And he's saying that we should have that kind of platform. That if you have a message, for example, anti-Russian message, something doesn't matter. You should have like effective platform to can you hear? Okay, to spread that message very quickly to as many people as possible. But also, what I can tell you from psychology, which is I think that's a very sad reality, is that people. You cannot increase the probability that people will understand an issue if they process information deeply. What matters is what they see on a first account. That is really sad. And what it tells us is that you have to regulate the process. You have to regulate what goes on social media. And I identify as liberal. For me, individual free speech and individual is important, but we have to somehow restrict what we see in our everyday lives on social media.
Okay, thank you. I think we're also about coming to a close. So I want you to join me in thanking our three panelists, thank them for their sort of spirit of civility, of also not just working for their tech innovations, but also for doing this for advancing freedom and democracy. So to Irakli, to Keti, to Temur. So if you can join me in thanking them. And I wanted to end with sort of three short takeaways. One is that you could be one of them, is that the Democracy and Tech Entrepreneurship with the Alliance of Democracies Foundation is open right now for Georgian applications. It's finishing, application deadline is on Sunday for the next year in Copenhagen, where if you get selected, you take part in 6 months of masterclasses, mentors, and join the Copenhagen Democracy Summit. So do apply for that. Secondly, there is a hackathon advancing democracy and freedom going on that will start after lunch. A lot of people already signed up. I think it's not impossible still to sign up. So if you want to join that goes on here at the same days as the DataFest, and we'll present in 2 days' time on the last day. So, so please also check that out. And then third but not least, I think I want to end with where Temur was saying, we're all citizens first. So I think it's important that we, of course, here today, mainly as tech entrepreneurs, that we think about what kind of innovations is it we want to bring forward, how do these also benefit the societies that we live in, and take that into consideration. So that's really the message we want you to take away from this, and we look forward to being part of the community here, part of the discussion over the next couple of days. Thanks a lot.